Hi everybody, welcome back to our second session of 30 minutes or less, and today we're going to be talking about segmentation for financial services. Kick off with a little bit about me. I'm Drew Simons, the Managing Director of Sicon CRM. I've got well over 20 years of experience in the financial services industry, specifically implementing CRM as a core business strategy. And I'm also a professor up at Seneca College, where I teach graduate students about customer relationship marketing, customer relationship management, or CRM. And just a little paid announcement about Sicon itself. The firm focuses on really three areas as it relates to financial services: customer acquisition, customer retention and development, and operational excellence. We were founded here in Toronto back in 1998, and we have a pretty good team of professionals. We have consultants, people who will help with digital marketing, the strategy, graphic designers, etc. We also have people who do training, and then to handle the back end, we've got programmers and network engineers. So enough about me and Sicon. Let's dig into the meat of today's session. So where we left off last time, I talked about the hard work that we faced. And in this, the second of our ongoing series, we're going to start to talk about in more detail what that hard work is. And, this series is really focused on topics of interest of financial services professionals. And I like to remind people as we go through this that, there's no way that in a 30-minute session we can cover everything. We kind of do it at a high level just to hit the key points. And what we're talking about is really an ongoing process. So it's going to take clearly more than 30 minutes, but hopefully in these sessions I'm at least providing enough guidance to help you in your journey towards implementing CRM. So what are we talking about today? Today we're going to be talking about segmentation. And I'm really going to spend some time talking about the reasons why segmentation makes sense. That will lead me into a conversation about identifying targets, and as usual, we'll end off with the next steps. So let's start off by talking about why we should segment. So first of all, one of the challenges that we face, financial service people, advisors, we deal with various elements within the financial service industry, so fund companies, and even where we deal with some other industries. So one of the other industries we're involved with is logistics. And even ourselves, we face the issue of limited resources. So our team only has so much time in a day, and we need to be able to allocate the team's time appropriately. We need to make sure that we're aligning our costs with the value that clients bring into the firm, recognizing that we all may have low-value clients that take resources away from our strategically significant clients. And if that term is new to you, strategically significant, I'm going to be talking about that in a little more detail later on in the presentation. When we segment, it allows us to target our value proposition. So the process of creating the segments will help us better understand our clients and prospects. And we want to make sure that our value proposition is based within what I refer to as a client context. So the deeper understanding that we have of our client or our prospect situation, the better that we're able to position our value proposition in a way that makes sense, in a way that will allow them to perceive the value that you bring to the table. This is also going to help us with a higher retention. So first of all, we're going to be attracting clients who benefit from the unique value proposition that you're putting out there based on that segmentation. Clients who are going to provide value to the practice. And because we've got both sides of the equation, so there's benefits from the client side and there's value from your side, it's more likely that you're going to have a long-term relationship. And, this is partially driven by the fact that the value that you add is going to go beyond just financial advice and will help build the trust and loyalty that leads to this higher retention. Additionally, by segmenting, we're going to work with clients that are part of a target group, and that's going to help enhance your knowledge of them. So you're going to have better knowledge of their specific needs, their unique concerns, the particular products and services that they may be looking for. And we talk about, this appropriate knowledge not only as it relates to financial products and services, but also other areas of both their professional and personal lives. And this knowledge that you develop is going to become part of the unique value proposition that you're able to put out there in front of your clients. And then finally, the reason for segmenting is it will help you develop your acquisition strategy. So by having a strong understanding of the type of client that you're looking for, you're going to be better positioned when it comes to referrals, networking, picking the right events to attend, as well as marketing. So making sure you're picking the correct publications. And even when you look at something like digital strategy, it's going to help you in things like selecting the right images to appear on your website. So, if you're going after seniors, for example, then you'd have seniors on your page. If you're going after millennials, then you would have pictures of millennials on your webpage. If you're going after a particular profession, you may want to have images that relate to that profession so that right away they're making that connection between their situation and the services that you offer. All right, so let's talk now about identifying targets. So I want to start off, first of all, just by talking a little bit about segments. In segments, we have to be a little careful because the more segments that we try to include in our practice, the greater the effort, because what we need to do is gather deep knowledge about these segments. We need to spend our days dealing with these segments. So if we have too many segments, we're going to be going in too many different directions, and we're not going to be able to get that deep knowledge, that appropriate knowledge that I talked about before. So what are some of the things that we look for in a segment? We're looking for visible identifiers of the segment that we're after. And, examples of these visible identifiers could be, something as simple as age. It may be something like their profession. And, in profession, we're looking at, are there ways that we can assist them with their careers? Are there networking opportunities within that target profession? Are there particular publications that they read? That refers both to profession and age. And if we're dealing within a particular profession, then there's a greater chance for referrals. We may be looking for something like associations, whether they belong to a particular association, because again, that gives us an opportunity to look for publications that we can advertise in, etc. And then, I guess this is kind of a no-brainer, but wealth. So do they live in a certain area that would allow us to make that assumption that they have a particular amount of wealth, or do they own homes of a certain value, or do they belong to a particular club that maybe we should belong to as well so that we can identify with them. So the next part is your practice. And you need to spend some time in light of the segments that you have targeted, that you think you'd like to go after. What makes your practice unique? What makes you attractive to those particular segments? And you need to consider all the elements that make up your practice. So what are the products that you're offering, the services, the people that you have in place? So do the people that you have in your practice have the right skill sets to deal with the segments that you're after? And when I say skill sets, do they have the right training, product knowledge? Do they have the right attitude? Do you have the processes in place that will deal with the segments appropriately, and is it supported by the right technology? So once we look at these two things, then we're now in a position to identify the targets. So we've described our segments, we have an idea of what our unique value proposition looks like. So now we can identify those investors within a segment that have strategic significance. Again, I'm using that term. We'll talk about it in a second. And your practice is able to serve them in a proprietary way. And when we mention proprietary way, we're referencing the unique value proposition. And that proprietary way is what's going to lead to increased retention, higher referrals, and that really becomes your differentiator. So now let's talk about this concept of strategic significance. And when I talk to my clients about strategic significance, I'm talking about 5 different areas. And the first one I think is kind of intuitive. It's profit. But we need to look at more than just the fees that come in. We need to make sure that we're capturing the costs to serve. And that can be a little challenging, and it's something that we're going to talk about in a later session. The other area of strategic significance is benchmarks. And these are clients that demonstrate your ability to service the type of investor that you want to attract. So these are clients that you have in the target market that can serve as references. The next type of strategic significance is volume. So these are clients who are bringing a large amount of business. They may not necessarily be as profitable as you would like, but are required to keep the lights on. And I often see this in the early stages of a practice, maybe not so much with a more mature practice. And when we talk about volume, I'm not talking about multiple investors with small accounts. What I'm talking about is those accounts that have large amount of investments, but the profitability isn't that great for whatever reason. And the last session I talked about advocates, and they fall under this concept of door openers. So these are the advocates who will actively refer business to you. And the last of the 5 is what I call inspirations. And I've been around this industry, as I said, for a long time, and a phrase I used to see, I don't know if any of you have heard of this before, is PITA factor. And what we need to do is differentiate those clients that we consider PITA and those clients who are inspirations. And what I mean by that is we need to separate those clients, those prospects who require way too much support from us from those who are going to inspire us to make our practice better. So these inspirations are clients who are vocal with us, who are challenging us in our ability to respond, and as a result are identifying those areas that will help us make our practice better and will drive us towards the operational excellence that has to be the foundation of the way that we're going to move forward. So, next steps. There is some work that you need to do. I talked, last session about hard work, and I'm going to talk more about hard work, some of which we've already talked about today, but you now need to make sure that you have spent sufficient time identifying what makes your practice unique in a way that's going to be attractive to your targets. You need to go through your existing book to identify who your strategically significant customers are. And what type of strategic significance do they have? And what you want to do is use that information as you go through your book and you're able to identify these strategically significant clients. You want to try and capture what their visible identifiers are. What is it that they have in common that you can use as a foundation for identifying or going after more clients who are just like them? And then finally, and this is going to be the topic for our next session, is gathering feedback from the clients. So you want to get that feedback And one of the reasons that we need to identify our strategically significant customers are those are the ones that we need feedback from. So you look at your whole book, narrow it down to the strategically significant ones, and you want to go out to them and gather feedback. And you want to see what you're doing well and what you aren't doing well. Because we need to be in a position that when we're proactively going after additional clients to bring into our practice, whether it's for growth or we need to replace something that we've lost, we need to make sure that we are operating well. So we need to go out, gather that feedback, and really these significant customers are the ones who are best positioned to tell us how we're doing. We often from the inside, we have a perception of how we're doing, which may be completely different. So that's why I want to take a session to explore that a little more deeply, because we've had a lot of experience gathering that type of client or feedback for our clients. So it's worthy of a session unto itself. So in 30 minutes or less, we covered off the reasons for segmenting, the process for identifying targets, and then once again, the next steps. So thank you for your time. Appreciate you joining us again today. I really look forward to our next session. This process of gathering feedback is really interesting. And in the meantime, as always, please feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is on the screen. I would genuinely welcome the opportunity to work with you on an individual basis. Enjoy the rest of your day.